This is a standard issue Peacekeeper cruiser. It'll get you from A to B, but don't...
Pacific City may look different these days, but beneath its crumbling facades and structural deterioration, it's really the same metropolis we visited 3 years ago. And for the video game in which this burned-out burg sets the stage, the verdict is very much the same. This is Crackdown 2 for the Xbox 360, a game which would have perhaps been more accurately titled Crackdown 2 Deja Vu. It may be a relative toddler as gaming franchises go, but Crackdown has led a pretty interesting existence. It was released in February of 2007, and by September, it had already sold 1.5 million copies. Like its predecessor, Crackdown 2 is a sandbox action game in which players assume the role of a super soldier known as an agent, a being which owes its existence to advancements in surgical and cybernetic technology, as well as the superheroes the good people at Real-Time evidently read about during their lunch breaks. Indeed, from the abilities of the agents to the aesthetics of the game itself, Crackdown 2 is like the bastard spawn of Marvel Comics and Grand Theft Auto. And if you've got even the faintest pulse for video games, it's easy to get excited about comparisons like that. And what's more, Crackdown 2 even adds zombies to the mix, or at least mutants which nest beneath the city during the day and bubble up to the streets in a zombie-like boil when the sun goes down. So in addition to fighting off terrorists with your superhuman abilities and arsenal of weapons, you're also tasked with killing what we'll generously call pseudo-zombies. I know what you're thinking, because I thought the same thing. What could possibly go wrong with that? An open-world game with an obvious comic book influence set in a massive city overrun with terrorists during the day and flooded with zombies at night. That's like everything good about video games rolled into a thick Grand Theft Auto burrito and smothered with dead rising hot sauce. But that's precisely the problem. Even if you've never played the original, Crackdown 2 probably isn't going to feel new to you. And that's a potent revelation in regard to its mechanics and design. Crackdown 2 feels like a game with little to offer aside from recitations of gaming's most cliched conventions. And since it's virtually identical to the first game, it actually highlights that the same critique can be applied to the first Crackdown, save for a very important distinction. Real-Time Worlds made a derivative game fun. Ruffian Games, on the other hand, created a derivative sequel to what was already a derivative game. A copy of a copy, if you will, only without that inexplicable magic that made the original game fun. So, apart from being derivative, where else does Crackdown 2 go wrong? Well, lots of places, the most notable being the structure of your objectives, or perhaps more accurately, the lack thereof. Crackdown 2 repeats the same mission 9 times, albeit at different points in the city, and calls it a single-player campaign. It feels like Ruffian Games assumed players would either play online multiplayer, or if they touched the single player at all, be content to run around aimlessly. So Crackdown 2 is, in the most charitable of descriptions, a gaming toy box. You're free to go anywhere and do just about anything in Pacific City, which is a fantastic basis from which to build. But nothing gets built. For the duration of the experience, you're running around the city while killing, driving, and collecting orbs. The killing and driving quickly become stale because the enemies never pose a threat, and the encounters become so repetitive. Which leaves us with the orbs. They combine with other items for a total of roughly 1,000 collectibles, and void of any tangible mission structure, it feels like Crackdown 2 operates under the delusion that a game focused on collection quests can be fun for more than 10 minutes. Yeah, it's fun to level up your agent, but when he doesn't have any missions or real reasons to level up, you'll find yourself asking, what's the point? Of course, if you're a fan of the original, or perhaps just a fan of random acts of senseless violence, particularly with friends, Crackdown 2 is worth a look. But if a sandbox game without much direction, and plenty of platforming, shooting, and collecting without much purpose doesn't sound appealing, you might want to abide the fine print written on the back of Pacific City's postcards. It's a nice place to visit, but it's not worth visiting twice.